What's up guys, Barry Game here, back with some more AFK Journey, and today we're going to be talking about mainly battle drills and those magic teams. If you guys didn't check out yesterday's video, we kind of highlighted Alsa and Taylene being just the best damage dealing team to use right now. If we're talking about non-endless game modes, the way that these bosses scale their defense, magic defense, all that fun stuff, magic damage dealers come out on top. I think we've kind of all agreed to it and understand it at this point. So what we need to talk about here is the difference in the support heroes to be used with this magic team, and today we're going to be talking about a couple of them right here. One of them is more or less a season specific one, Satrana. I absolutely love her. Even though she's a melee magic damage dealer, her season ability Arcane Focus is really powerful. 20% additional damage to adjacent enemies. It's only one tile around her, so it needs to be a very tight-knit group of enemies for this to take place with. Most everything else is just more defensive. Besides Ignite Passions, also giving sparks to allies within 2 tiles, allowing them to deal additional damage, which is cool. And the other really big one is Cassidy. Cassidy, however, you do need Mythic Plus, and you need to go for plus 10 to really get the best bang for your buck. And beyond that, going for her Enhance is also much better. Enhanced Force at Supreme Plus is Cassidy reducing magic defensive enemies hit by Running Tide by 20% for 10 seconds. Now, yesterday, you probably also saw us do one other hero, and that is Thorn, and that's because between his season ability, allowing enemies to take more damage, and his native soul plunder attack, allowing the target to receive more damage, is really hard to miss with Thorn. The only positive is the fact that the other 2 heroes can also do damage. Satrana is probably one of the lower damage dealers, whereas she buffs her allies more, whereas Cassidy does more damage herself. And we're going to see how she performs in this battle drills. Now, sadly, we cannot continue to compare this right here. We had the best hits, as you guys saw. Some crazy teams popping up left, right, and center. Taylene being awesome. I'm going to see if we can get to Shadow Merrily today, but I don't know if that's going to necessarily be possible. But we do have to still go through these battles here, and I kind of want to try to run a magic damage dealing type team as well. So running something along the lines of, like, probably want to run a 2 healer setup. I guess running also could be viable, but I kind of want to do something a little bit like this. And probably going with evocation spell. So let's see how this looks. I don't know if this is going to work out well without an Aaron on the team, because of course the enemies aren't going to necessarily group up, but Cassidy tends to group them up. We also have, of course, Satrana's probably the weak link here, I'd say, because you guys can see. So I'm going to slow this down because I don't even know if you can see Satrana and all this. She's right in the front, and she has this blue circle going around her feet. That means anybody within her 1 tile or 2 tile range, I don't remember exactly what it is taking that 20% bonus damage. So you can see why this target right here is going down so quickly. Now, with Cassidy on this team too, constantly pushing the enemy back, that does mean more and more enemies are becoming vulnerable to that additional damage. And as you guys can see, we're starting to really shred through this team. We already took 1 target out. Looks like a second might go out. No, not quite. But you can see how, like, a full damage dealing team with magic damage dealers still does absolutely amazing against bosses like this. Taylene being the big one. You kind of see Satrana surprisingly doing a lot of damage compared to even Cassidy, which is why I'm kind of partial to liking her a little bit better. But of course, using this type of team against something like this, probably not the best. We'll save that for right now. I kind of want to try to run something a little bit different here. I want to run Odie in this team because if we can snipe some targets down, that would be awesome. I feel like we do want a healer in this team. And then honestly, I guess we run the Alsa here. Ooh, this is where it gets tricky. I guess I don't want to. I think I just want to run something like this where we are going to swap the Alsa here. This isn't exactly the most optimal team, but it is a team that can probably take out some of these enemies. And again, I feel like if you're doing waves like this in battle drills, the best thing to do is, of course, run Arden and, of course, run Aaron, something like that. But Odie is shredding these teams apart. Same with Alsa. They're really better at, like, pinpointing down these enemies here and trying to grind them out instead of trying to go for the AoE strategy, because AoE is good in certain situations, but you can see how much more damage this team is, like, doing focused. We're able to take down opponent after opponent. We might have to run this back one more time, but if we can keep our main team alive, that would be sweet. I think I might drop Alsa out though. Ooh, we just missed it, so that sucks. We're gonna have to burn one of our attempts, but at least we will get to see Merrily today as well, which will be pretty cool. And we'll be able to compare versus other people. So let's just finish this one out. Honestly, man, I bet we could just run. This is risky. This is super risky. I kind of want to run like a single damage dealer, but I know the smart play here is going to be running these other heroes. I know it is. In reality, we should do something like this. Maybe we can get away with 4 heroes. Who are we gonna sit? Who are we gonna sit here? I guess I'm going to run. Man, I guess we'll throw Cassidy in here too. That way, still buffing, but we just missed it by a tiny bit. But you can see how much extra damage these magic damage dealers are doing because of these two. And Thorn is another really good one to put in the squad. Yeah, sadly, that gets all burnt away. We did now open up this top path though. Well, we still got a few more hits to go. We're going to leave that to some other people to do, but I kind of wanted to talk about the options you do have, and then hopefully tomorrow we can smash Merrily and see that didn't sound right. So we can attack Merrily and see how this goes, and we can do a perfect comparison 1-to-1. But the biggest thing with these magic damage dealing teams is making sure you have the correct support heroes around them. One hero you kind of always want to use, Smokey and Mirky. Very, very strong hero for both buffing attack while also dealing damage when you get him to Mythic Plus. The other alternative that we haven't been able to test in this game mode just yet is going to be that Ludovic. Ludovic can potentially do a lot of damage if you again have him at Mythic Plus and you have these bloom fields and everything. They can do a ton of extra damage. My personal favorite still to this day is Satrana. I don't know why, I just really love it. And the fact that her Mythic Plus also can give your teammates magic damage reduction, can increase the survivability of your team. It's kind of like a mini or a very specific Haywin or Coco type buff, which is interesting, while also providing more damage to the team and dealing damage herself. You of course have heroes like Cassidy, which is a very smart play, but again, you kind of have to invest more in her. She needs that +10 to really be worthwhile. Again, I'm still more of a fan of Satrana. I think we'll do a perfect 1-to-1 breakdown tomorrow between these two heroes. Someone else you can use in this too is if you do have Mythic Plus on these waves and you're more of a wave killer than a boss killer, you can definitely go with Carolina, because Carolina does something very similar, reducing the enemy's magic defense as well, which can be really big, especially if you've already invested heavily into her. Like in the early days of PvP when you used her a ton, if you heavily invested, you could have up to 30% magic defense reduction, which is just insane. And these heroes can be very good. Like I said, Thorn is another really good example of buffing the damage. I don't think we even really have to talk about Ryanair much. Most of you guys already know exactly what he can do. And then there are a couple other heroes that we don't necessarily highlight very often, but can also be very useful in these situations. Heroes like Florbell. Florbell actually has the same season ability, increasing the damage the enemies take, which is a pretty good buff. Plus also providing extra damage can be really cool. So there's a lot of options to build around your team. And of course, if you're going for the wave killing, Arden is going to be the go-to magic damage dealer, along with having Aaron in your team. Not Coco, Aaron. So that's kind of what we're going over for battle drills here today, because again, focusing 100% on magic teams right now is the way to go. Do not be using heroes like Merrily, don't use Corin, don't use, I mean, any of the physical damage dealers. It's just not going to work out well for you. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. We'll get Shadow Merrily going tomorrow, and I'll see you guys next time.